Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Third time's the charm, I hope. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Third time's the charm, I hope. And yes, that pause was for me to check if the audio still work. Because let me be honest with you, a lot of things did not work for me to put this stream here. So, while I get the link and share that on Twitter, because well, to be honest, I don't know why I'm gonna do, but let's do it, just for funsies. Let me give you the preamble about the video. The reason why this is a stream slash video, it's more or less because every time I record this shit show in a can, I sit down and said, oh, it is not up for my standards, even if my standards are low as shit. So I simply decided to, well, scrap the video and never work. To give a perspective of how long that is, it is since I finished Cyberpunk. And I finished Cyberpunk on the 16th of December last year. So, yeah. That's to give you a little bit of a perspective of how many times I probably scrapped the entire script slash bullet points of the video. But this time it's something a little bit different. Cyberpunk was nominated to be the RPG of the year, something I do believe it will win, even if I believe it doesn't deserve. Second, Cyberpunk got a lot of news first because the investors call that happened today, on Monday, 29th of November, and because a couple of articles that came around, some based off, other were not based off, but were on because of the interview that CDPR did to a Polish economics magazine or something like that. So, besides that, the biggest reason is the reaction on Twitter that Cyberpunk had. Now, I'll be honest, this stream is more like a video. If by any chance, something that I doubt it, because, well, with the amount of viewers that I have, I doubt anyone will know this is happening, I will try to engage in discussion, but again, I doubt that will ever happen. Now, my opinion on the game is a little bit negative, and one thing, I'm drinking... This video will go out as long as I am pushing my... Until I finish my points, as long as Monster Energy drink keep me alive, or until I die. One of the three will happen, and then the stream will end. So without further bullshit, let's go for it. My sentiment about this interesting thing that is Cyberpunk is very simple. I tweeted a couple times, I said a lot of times about that, but here's the sentiment, and the sentiment that I will be building the entire video on. Give or take in 2 years, Cyberpunk will have 2 expansions, and then at the end of that year, the year that the last expansion comes around, we will have the Gold Edition. Cyberpunk Night, I don't know, Night City Edition, whatever edition you want to call it, that you're gonna bundle with the 2 expansions, and everyone will revisit the game. That's not a bad thing. Kinda. The thing that I do believe it's bad is everyone will forget everything about this game. And when I say everyone will forget everything about this game, what I mean is simple. Everyone will forget everything that led up to the game. Because here's the thing, everyone already forgets about it. Because it's already more or less in the public mind that Cyberpunk did, indeed, had only 2 years of development. But let's go back to the statement that I was doing. Again, the statement that I was doing was, give or take 2 years, there will be at a new release of Cyberpunk. People will forget about the marketing that Cyberpunk had. And when people look back to see what happened, they will believe the community overhyped the game, and it was more or less players' fault for playing Cyberpunk on the old gen. Now, I do believe those statements are the current view already. A lot of people, like I said, or a lot of people already forgot about most of the marketing. Second, yes, a lot of people believe that it was mostly the community that overhyped the game, and CDPR only stated more or less what the game would have, even if that's not the case, with facts. But we're gonna put that on the more later part of the video. And yes, I still believe there is a larger majority of people that say, oh, it's fault of the players that decided to play the game on the old generation console. Let's go bottom to top with this first statement, the part of the fault of the players for playing this game on the old generation consoles. Here's the funny thing. During the most of the public life of Cyberpunk, this game was developed in theory for the old generation consoles. And 1 second while I take a sip of this wonderful drink. I really hope you can't hear that, but my mic is a piece of shit, so there is a large chance that you can. I want you to remember one thing. Cyberpunk was announced a long time ago. And when Cyberpunk was announced, let us remember the old consoles were the thing. Not the new consoles, not anything like that. Like, you wouldn't... If I recall correct, and I'm gonna see right now, and that's one of the things, normally I would already have that on it, and I would stop here, and that's a funny illusion about all the stuff. Normally when I do that, I arrive on some statement like that, I stop, go and look about it, and correct if necessary, and if not. So, the title reveal happened 9 years ago, on October 19, 2012. That's all fun and games, but Cyberpunk 2077 Summer Conference happened on May 2012. 2012. And you want to know something interesting? The CEO from CDPR came around and said that they already were working on this project for years. If you use the lower denominator of years, it goes to 2. Therefore, this game was, in theory, under development since 2010. Now, we all know this is not true. We all know that more or less the game was really under development after 2018. And a funny piece of evidence to that, I think I can show that more easily, is this. Oh great, we have people screaming outside of my window. "10 out of 10 professionalism," but okay. So, if you go on the Wayback Machine, and I'm using this screenshot because it's easier for me. And that's not what I wanted, for some reason. That's what I wanted. You can see the last time that the Wayback Machine has this description of Cyberpunk is on May 28th of 19. And it still says, welcome to the official Twitter account full of Cyberpunk 2077, the role-playing game, and blah blah blah, and all of that. Funny enough, now, the next time the Wayback Machine has something, they have this. They changed back then to the open world style, the action open world. And I want to also point out, I know that we are bouncing around, but this is a stream. I'm not gonna do any script for this, so here we go. Originally, this game was supposed to release on 2020 for May, I think. May, yes, you're seeing here. Prior to the release of the new consoles. Therefore, this whole idea of the game was being developed for the new console is BS. The game is not being developed for the new consoles. The game was poorly developed. That's the reality. People rushed that. And here's the thing. I wanted to state that a little bit more clear. I'm not putting the blame on the ground people. The ground people did the best they could. I firmly believe they did more than the best they could, to the point that I would question if they saw their families for any period of time, or if they were kept tied up in the offs, but that's the joke. Back to the topic. They did the best they could. The thing is, this game was rushed as hell. And I don't think... I just noticed something. Yeah, whatever, you can see that thing. I don't care. So, the idea that it's fault of the players for playing Cyberpunk on the old generation is stupid. Now, you may question me, also, oh, nobody believes that. It's completely made up. Nobody will ever. Yes, they do. And here's the thing. A lot of people that do have a large platform, and they spread that notion. And when times come around, like I said, on 2 years, the new edition of Cyberpunk come around, and they come and sit down and say, oh, here's the new thing, here's the new Cyberpunk edition, and here's the entire new game. People will look back, and see the fact that, yes, let's look and see how people were seeing Cyberpunk back then. And they will see these people that normally, and that's one of the points, normally are very objective when it comes to the analysis, sit down and say, no, Cyberpunk was fine, and it was the fault of the players for trying to run in a toaster. Well, let's be realistic, that was not the case. And again, there is another problem on that notion. Cyberpunk did not work fine on PC. Far from it. Cyberpunk still have a lot of problems on PC. And I will be honest, I remember only one human being besides myself saying that. Because here's the thing. Right now, a lot of people will look up. If you look up, you will see people complaining about the performance on consoles. And yes, the performance on the base consoles is awful. Was awful. I don't know how it is today. But if you try to see people saying specific, they will not say specifically on console the bugs, the glitches, the missing features, and all of that. But because they are saying, oh, the performance on consoles are bad, and the game has a lot of glitches, bugs, and whatsoever, and everyone who will be seeing this in the future will immediately believe, oh, all the problems were tied to that sentence. And in your brain, it's something that will probably happen to me too. will be, oh, okay, so it was just the glitches, the bugs, the broken economy, the missing features was all because the last gen. And that was not the case. Here is a fun fact. On my Let's Play, let me see that because, well, funny enough, I can check that out right now. If YouTube allows. No, I don't want that. I want Cyberpunk, not the videos on it. I want the... Not Cyber Manhunt, Cyberpunk. Okay. The last video was on January. And I have to say something. I have re-recorded a lot on Cyberpunk. The reason why I did that was because many times the game bugged out on me, and I was pissed off enough that I needed to do entire re-recording. One of the big examples of that was the Voodoo Boys mission. Not the entire mission. It was the point where you fight. If you side with Netwatch, there was every time I did that, I became invincible. If you side with Netwatch, I would get out of the thing. On the later part of the mission, I would become invulnerable, and there was nothing that I could do. I re-recorded that a couple times. The sound kept the same. I kept the same sound. But one time it stopped after the fight, but it didn't fix the whole thing. Because funnily enough, the mission from other missions around that time broke. Many quests didn't give their link the next step. So what I had to do, besides reinstalling the game and all of that thing, was reinstalling the game, go back to early save, play back that entire mission. For some reason, reinstalling the game solved that time, the third time that I tried, and I did the boss fight normally, and then I proceeded on the missions that had a hook prior. It was not a fun thing, but I did. So, saying that Cyberpunk worked fine on PC is also a lie. And that's the thing. It will be something that people will tell. Because, well, people will have the memory. And a lot of people outside will say the same thing. Cyberpunk worked... Well, the problem was only on consoles. And in reality, it wasn't. The problem was on all platforms. And this is a narrative that is being crafted even by CDPR. Because if you look their apology, they say we are proud of the PC version, the first PC version. So that is out of the window. People won't care about it. The second statement is the overhype for the community. This is something that it's very problematic because many people will say it's subjective. Many people still believe, still on the opinion that Cyberpunk is an RPG, but by the same standards that Cyberpunk is an RPG, Call of Duty is an RPG. You can make the claim that Cyberpunk is an RPG in the same way that you can make the claim that every game is an RPG. But the expectation that people have when you say, we're gonna make a true RPG, and that's the thing. We had their promise. We still have their promise right here. Let's go. We have the promise that CDPR made. Mature RPG. realistic and brutal. Non-linear story. Cyberpunk is the most linear storytelling that I can say. I will. I know what people say. Oh, you can tackle the three main things in different time, in a different order. That doesn't make non-linear. It's just the simple fact of, well, the story's there. I will say 4 is okay. They scrapped that. 5, it's debatable. I believe it's not okay. 6, I agree. They did set a new standard for RPG. The problem with the new standard, it's so fucking low that you just need to stumble to go above. Cyberpunk was not it was an RPG in the same way that Far Cry 4 was an RPG. Because, well, in the end, it's just choose your own adventure, and if you choose your own ending on the rooftop, and if you decide to do extra content, you get a new one, a second ending, a third ending. To be honest, you have 2 endings plus the third of the nomads. If then you can bite the bullet, and if you do a 2 dialogue options in the entire game with a character, then CDPR really try its best to make you like, even if you have any knowledge about the setting, you're not gonna like the character that much. Because Johnny Silverhand is a fucking idiot. But those are the thing. And here's the thing. That's the problem. Because I'm going on a more subjective term, and this is indeed one of the reasons why I always scrap this. Especially on this part. I can show the more objective nature of the last part. Like I said, believing that it fault of the players to play on the old generation is objectively wrong. The public life of the game was touted to be developed by the older console. This game was on to, here, you can see. God damn it. God damn it. You can see. 2012. So, yes, this game was public life for the old consoles. And again, this game was not perfect on PC either. It had bugs, it had glitches. The performance was better, yes. But that is not performance was not the only problem. The game was broken on release. And people will forget that. People will simply believe in time, in 2 to 3 years, the date where the expansions come around, that the only problem Cyberpunk had, technically speaking, on release was the performance. By the simple statements that are being made right now. And that's not the case. Cyberpunk had glitches, Cyberpunk has had an unbalanced, broken economy, Cyberpunk had a bug on their save. Not only that, but let's not forget that CDPR, and that is something that nobody remembers. CDPR tried its best to cover their asses 2 occasions to show how they were a little bit scummy. And I don't remember who did. And you could find that out. 1. There was an exploit, a security exploit. Yes, security. Not anything around with the way that CDPR handles stuff. Where character presets or mods and saves could compromise your files. Your PC files. CDPR pushed the responsibility for modders on that one. People will not remember that. Second, CDPR, when the shit hits the fan on the beginning of this shit show said, oh, if you're not satisfied with your product, seek refunds. Not with us, but talk with Microsoft, Sony, Steam, and GOG if you pre-order on GOG. Let us remind one thing. Sony has such a draconic refund policy that if you stare on the game on your library too much, you can't refund anymore. And CDPR were encouraging people to ask refunds from that company without talking with the company. That is enough a problem. And you can say, oh, the problem here is the fact that Sony has a draconic refund policy. I agree. Sony has a shitty refund policy. But that doesn't matter to this topic right now. It doesn't matter if Sony has a shitty, draconic. Goddamn it, there's something in my eye. Refund policy. What matter is CDPR were encouraging that behavior. And they did that a lot of times. Like I said, they pushed the blaming on a security flaw on modding. It was not modder fault that CDPR fucked that up. Later down, there was the problem on save files because CDPR was smart enough to have a broken economy, and if you craft X amount of items, your save would reach a certain file size, and that would corrupt your save. Let me say one thing. People said, oh, if you don't use the exploit, you were fine. A lot of people said, no, that's not the case, because if you finish 100% the game, you had a very, very small window of space on your save. People made the calculation. People sat down and crafted and made the entire calculation to see that. That's not like the fault of people. If your economy is broken, because the economy on Cyberpunk was broken, I don't know how it is right now, it's your fault for it. And one other interesting fact, I know they fixed that bug, but it was a bug that happened on my second playthrough, was the some items, and I do remember being Johnny Silverhand glasses, the t-shirt, and the Reaver revolver. If you upgrade they stood on your inventory, so you would get a duplicate of it. You get the one that you didn't upgrade and the one that you like, the original one and the upgraded one. The game didn't tell you like anything. There was no thing like saying, oh, you did the thing. So I kept like a 5 minutes upgrading, and my brain was, this is a unique item, so when I upgrade it, it will stop being there. And when it didn't, I said, oh, something was wrong. So maybe because, well, it's a press and hold thing. Oh, maybe I let it go. I did that 5 times until I noticed there's something wrong here. And then go to my inventory, and I see the thing is there. All the 5 ones. And I said, well, that's interesting, isn't it? I couldn't shove that on the trunk of the car. I couldn't shove that on the locker in the house. I couldn't sell the item. I couldn't do anything with the item. I couldn't disassemble the item. So I have that eternal dark mark on my save. But back to the topic, because I got on a tangent. Yes, this is objective. The game was broken beyond the simple, right now, the simple performance problems because older generation consoles were less powerful. The game was broken because, well, they fucked up. They rushed this thing out of the gate a lot. CDPR fucked up. Now, we have this. The more subjective part. Oh, mature RPG with realistic and brutal world futuristic, whatever you want to call this, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 promises here. I don't believe they make anything. And for anyone who say, oh, people will hold they accountable, for this. People are not holding CDPR accountable for shit. And this screenshot, there is from the conference, CDPR Red Group Summer Conference 2012. I only saw it twice. One when I posted on a comment on the Twitter comment from Razorfist, and the second, Razorfist was used this screenshot on another comment. I can't say it was the one that I post. I doubt it. But it's the only two times that I saw that on Twitter. People don't know about this. People don't remember this. People forgot about this. But here's the thing. And Cyberpunk will be the Schrodinger development. Because when you want to praise, you say, this is what 10 years of development, 8 years or whatever, of development makes. Because, let's be honest, to model Night City, by the fuck, if the people who sat down and modeled that thing made that because Night City, it's beautiful. It's sad that it is a Western prop, because if you look behind the buildings, there's nothing. It's a cardboard cutout. But what is there is beautifully made. And to the people that work, if they worked that in 2 years, by God, I question if they had time, if they were like Amazon style of shifts where they had to pee on bottles, because for fuck's sake. But they would say, no, stay calm. That didn't happen. They had 8 years or 10 years to develop that. I always see in 10 years because what it says on this conference, the 2 years extra of development time. I know publicly is accepted 8 years of development, and realistics too. But when you sit down and say, oh, about the shortcomings and everything else, people change the tune to, oh, you're complaining, but you have to remember that Cyberpunk was only in development for 2 years. It's really the Schrodinger development cycle. It's 8 or 2, depending on the side of the argument the person is each day. And I had those arguments, and the person changed those arguments mid-conversation. I can't show it anymore because the person blocked me. And it was early last year, so I'm not gonna be able to just go back on it. So, on the object term, yes. Cyberpunk, the belief that people were wrong by playing Cyberpunk on Xbox One or PS4 is bullshit. The game was marked for those consoles. Not only that, but the original release date for the game is for still prior to the release of the newer consoles. So if you sustain the theory of 80 years of full development, most of the public life of this game was prior to even the announcement of the upgraded versions of the console. The subjective more overhype, watch what they did. You will see that that's not the case. And one of the things is just, for example, the graphical downgrades that happen. For example, I like, because a lot of people did the comparison between the female V, how gradually between the original announcement and the end, how gradually she became awfully ugly in the comparisons, and it's very hard to make her. So, yes. Fuck that shit. This game was not what they promised. And here is the promises. You can tell whatever you want, but here they are. It's subjectively, they achieve any of those. Really, I don't believe the non-linear story and filled with life and detail. It's okay. It's there. Yeah, you can say mature RPG because, well, there's boobs. and violence, but besides that, it's there. I don't think it's a reach story. It's very generic and bland. The advanced mechanics from the tabletop, I disagree. The mechanics are very simplistic, and in the same way that mostly Skyrim is the adventures of the stealth archer, Cyberpunk is the adventures of the stealth hackerman. When it comes for the fourth, I agree. This is something they didn't need to keep, and a difference in style was okay. And this is the only one they said when they talk. Oh, during the fourth one, oh, we may change that to apply to the game. So while the three, all the other five, they said they would maintain. The fourth one was to say, oh, this is the one that we are subject to change. The other ones we want to stick in. Uh, Gigantic arsenal of weapons. I disagree. By the simplest standard that, yeah, a different paint job doesn't make the weapon different. A different statistic on the weapon doesn't make the weapon different. A gigantic arsenal of weapons would be something that really, like, you have different type of weapons. Not three types of assault rifles, not three types of shotguns, not three types of something. And any amount of small statistical increments on everything, and a paint job that you should allow the player to customize that. Customization on Cyberpunk shit. Let's be honest. Tying customization to your looks to the game to mechanical was a stupid idea, because my main character for the Let's Play ended up looking like a fucking clown. And I hated that. Implants, yeah, you can say we have enough. High-tech toys, no, we didn't have any. And again, like I said, I agree, it did set a new standard for futuristic RPG. Standard is so fucking low that you can stumble on it and you'll make. That's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I made a 30-minute video now, and I'm satisfied with it. I firmly believe I wouldn't be able to make this if I sat down to do in a video. And the reason why is I scrapped this video so many times. Because every time it felt something was wrong with it. Because if I did a script, it felt too robotic. It felt like, oh, I was not putting the real myself on it. And if I just wing it, I would sit down and said, oh, okay, I'm missing something. There has to be something I'm missing. So, here's the thing. I'm just gonna take the hit. I'm gonna put this video out there in this version of a live stream because I'm not gonna be able to edit this. This is what it is. If I like it or not, it will be there. And truth be told, it's gonna be the best that I can do. Agree with me or not, this is my opinion. And I want to finish in something that I should place in the beginning. Right now, I found very interesting because people are unable to criticize things they like. I will give you a personal example. I love Alpha Protocol. Alpha Protocol is a fucking amazing RPG. But the goddamn gameplay is clunky as shit. Story is great. Ish, I think. On my subjective view. It's amazing. But if someone sit down to me and said, oh, should I buy it? I'll look to the person and say, you probably can't. But if you have time, sure. But that game is clunky as fuck. So go with a word of warning. And that's the thing. Allow yourself to criticize something that you like. It's important. allow yourself to criticize and agree that the company that is pushing something like that is shitty. It's incredibly necessary. Because here's the thing. If we keep giving a pass to a company like CDPR on a situation like that, we're gonna have a new Bioware on our hands. A new Bioware, a new Blizzard, a new Bethesda. A company that cannot do any wrong. Because here's the thing. Bioware didn't turn shit on Mass Effect 3. Bioware start turning shit on probably Dragon Age 2. And I bought it on pre-order day, on pre-order Mass Effect 3. I gave it a chance on Anton. I pre-order Andromeda. I bought day one Inquisition. I was stupid enough. Too. I'm not saying that I'm above that. Bethesda is a little bit different because although after I bought it Fallout 4, I saw how Bethesda was a piece of shit and I didn't bought 76. But why the fuck? I defend Bethesda a lot more than I should. I always was critical of Blizzard because I always thought stupid when people treated Blizzard like this small indie developer since they were Activision Blizzard. And I just laughed about it. And we are treating CDPR in the same way. Oh, of course, they lied. But it was the fault of the overhyping gamers. And I want to give you one more closing statement here. People love to say that, oh, CDPR will pull No Man's Sky out of this. They will make the game, they will keep the promises. Are you bullshitting me? Really? I want to believe you're not that stupid. And here's the reason why I want to believe you're not that stupid. CDPR will not pull No Man's Sky. CDPR is already working on multiplayer for Cyberpunk. They said that much. CDPR already started working on the next project. CDPR is already pushing for 2, if not more, paid expansions for Cyberpunk. No Man's Sky, Hello Games, they didn't ask for a dime for the 5 years of development that they pull on No Man's Sky. CDPR will be asking for your money. And I can bet your ass that if you go to Reddit right now, you will find that list of features that Cyberpunk promised, that CDPR promised that would be in the game. And you can come back in 2 years after the development finished on Cyberpunk and show me that list and say to me, here how they did. Because let me be honest, No Man's Sky didn't put everything. That's the truth. But they are putting features they just hinted at. They did not say, because I do believe there was features they didn't say and people just overhyped. But there was features they said and it wasn't there in the end. And compare, after the 5 years of development that Hello Games put for free, an indie company, not one of the biggest studio out there. And that's the thing. They will not pull a No Man's Sky. Because CDPR is a company, not a developer anymore. They don't have the best interest of the gamer in mind. They just want the cash. And let's be honest, they got the Cyberpunk cash. They just gonna move to the next one. And for all the people saying we will remember, no, we won't. We didn't remember of The Witcher 3. Witcher 3 had a very severe graphical downgrade. And if you're gonna say right now that, oh, it's just graphics, we crucify Ubisoft in the same year for Watch Dogs graphic downgrade. And you want to know how much we crucified? Stocks from Ubisoft were so low that Vivendi almost bought the entire company years later by a hostile takeover because Watch Dogs. That is the amount of we fucked up someone just for a graphical downgrade. Keep that in mind next time when someone defends Cyberpunk. Ladies and gentlemen, remember the ground floor Ladies and gentlemen, remember the ground floor developer did the best they could. In the end, those guys are employers. They don't deserve any flack. The management side of this, they deserve all the flack and more. And the lead development team, I will say they deserve also that. Because don't give me that cheek answer. Oh, of course there is consequence for your question, for the quests. You're just a fucking peasant and didn't notice. And I will leave you with that. Because, well, more or less that was what CDPR left us with. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Thank you for watching. If you ever watched this video, stream, or whatever, I'm gonna end with this. And I'm gonna sleep. If this can of monster lemon iced tea thing, dragon iced tea, let me. I still have to finish. And my room is hot as hell. See you around. Hope you have a good time.